Despereaux had been saved by Gregory the jailer. And the author had said to us, in second person point of view, "Reader, if you don't mind, this is where I will leave you." And our small mouse, in the dungeon, in the hand of the jailer, telling a story to save himself. And it's time for us to turn our attention elsewhere. If we turn our attention elsewhere, that's a way of saying that we're going to pay attention to a different character in the book now. And we're going to speak of the rats, one rat in particular. Book the second, Despereaux. Chapter 16, Blinded by the Light. As our story continues, reader, we must go backward in time. Wait, what does that mean, to go backward in time?
A flashback.
A flashback. This chapter is actually happening before the Despereaux chapter just happened. So why did the author make the Despereaux chapter happen first then? I want you to think about that as I'm reading. If this chapter happened before the Despereaux chapter,
Because then
why did
stuff
the
could
author tell
happen
this first?
before the Despereaux chapter and during the Despereaux chapter.
As our story continues, we go backward in time to the birth of a rat named Despereaux, or called Despereaux. A rat born into the filth and the darkness of the dungeon. Several years before the mouse Despereaux was born into the light. So when is this chapter happening?
A couple years before Despereaux.
Yeah, several can be any number. I usually think of a number more than 3, but less than 10 when I think of the number 7. So several years ago, could have been 7 years ago. Reader, do you know the definition of the word Despereaux?
No.
If you look in your dictionary, you will find it means the arrangement of light and dark, darkness and light together. Rats do not care for light. Despereaux's parents were having a bit of fun when they named their son. Rats have a sense of humor. Rats, in fact, think that life is very funny. And they are right, reader. They are right. In the case of Despereaux, however, the joke had a hint of prophecy to it. For it happened that when Despereaux was a young rat, he came upon a great length of rope on the dungeon floor. What's the rope for?
I think it was from the jailer's foot.
Remember what Gregory had tied around his foot? "Ah, what do we have here?" said Despereaux. Being a rat, he began to nibble at the rope. "Stop that!" boomed a voice, and a great hand came out of the darkness and picked the rat up by his tail, held him suspended upside down. "Why are you nibbling on Gregory's rope, rat?" "Who wants to know?" said Despereaux. For being upside down, he was still a rat. "You smart alecky rat, nibbling on Gregory's rope. Gregory will teach you to mess with his rope." And keeping Despereaux upside down, Gregory lit a match. The nail of his thumb, and then held the brilliant flame up to Despereaux's face. "Ah," said Despereaux. He pulled his head back away from the light. But alas, he did not close his eyes, and the flame exploded around him and danced inside him. "Has no one told you the rules?" said Gregory. "What rules?" "Gregory's rope, rat, is off limits." "So? Apologize for chewing on Gregory's rope." "I will not," said Despereaux. "Apologize." "No." "Filthy rat," said Gregory. "You black-souled thing. Gregory's had it with you rats." He held the match closer to Despereaux's face, and the terrible smell of burnt whiskers rose up around the jailer and the rat. And then the match went out, and Gregory released Despereaux's tail. He flung it back into the darkness. "Do not ever touch Gregory's rope again, or you will be sorry." Despereaux sat on the dungeon floor. The whiskers on the left side of his face were gone. What happened to him?
The fire.
He burned him off. His heart was beating hard, and though the light from the match had disappeared, it danced still before the rat's eyes, even when he closed them. Light, he said aloud, and then he whispered it again. Light. Rats like the darkness. What are you noticing about Roscoe right now?
He's saying a light.
He seems fascinated by the light. From that moment forward, Roscoe showed an abnormal, inordinate interest in illumination of all sorts. What is illumination?
Light.
Light. If we illuminate something, we light it up. And he has a really strong interest in that. He would be on the lookout from the dungeon for the smallest glimmer, the tiniest shimmer. His rat soul longed inexplicably for it. He began to think that light was the only thing that gave life meaning, and he despaired that there was too little of it to be had. He finally voiced his sentiment to his friend, a very old one-eared rat named Botticelli Rimorso. I think, said Roscoe, that the meaning of life is light. Light? Said Botticelli. Ha ha ha, you kill me. Light has nothing to do with it. What does it all mean then? Said Roscoe. The meaning of life, said Botticelli, is suffering. Suffering for others. Prisoners, for instance. Reducing a prisoner to a weeping, wailing, begging mess is a delightful way to give your existence meaning. Wait a minute. Botticelli gives his existence meaning by doing what?
Eating people like mice.
By torturing. He basically is saying prisoners, making them suffer or torture. What do you think of Botticelli right now?
Mean.
Doesn't sound very nice, does he? As he spoke, Botticelli swung from the extraordinarily long nail of his right front paw and a heart-shaped locket. He had taken the locket from a prisoner and hung it on a rope. Whenever Botticelli spoke, the locket moved back and forth, back and forth. Are you listening? Botticelli said to Roscoe. I'm listening. Good, said Botticelli. Do as I say and your life will be full of meaning. This is how you torture a prisoner. First, you convince them you're his friend. You listen to him. You encourage him. You get him to confess his sins. And when the time is right, talk to him. Tell him what he wants to hear. Tell him, for instance, that you will forgive him. That is a wonderful joke to play on a prisoner. To promise forgiveness? Why, said Roscoe. His eyes went back and forth, following the locket. Because, said Botticelli, you will promise it. Ha! But you will not grant it. You gain his trust, and then you deny him. You refuse to offer him the very thing he wants. Forgiveness, freedom, friendship. Whatever it is his heart desires, you withhold it. At this point in his lecture, Botticelli laughed so hard he had to sit down and catch his breath. The locket swayed back and forth and then stopped altogether. Ha, said Botticelli. Ha ha ha. You gain his trust. You refuse him. And then you know what you were all along. What you knew you were. Not a friend, not a confessor or forgiver, but a rat! Botticelli wiped his eyes and shook his head with a great sigh of contentment. What's contentment? If you're content, it means you're happy, you're satisfied. How does Botticelli make himself happy? By being mean. By torturing others or making others be miserable, in particular the prisoners. I would like very much to torture a prisoner, said Roscoe. I would like to make someone suffer. Your time will come, said Botticelli, Currently, all the prisoners are actually spoken for, but another prisoner will arrive sooner or later. How do I know this to be true? Because, Roscoe, the world is evil, and the presence of evil guarantees prisoners. So soon there will be a prisoner for me, said Roscoe. Yes, said Botticelli Remorso. Yes. I'm looking forward to it. Of course you're looking forward to it. You're looking forward to it because you're a rat. A real rat. Yes, said Roscoe. I am a real rat. Concerned not at all with light, said Botticelli. Concerned not at all with light, repeated Roscoe. Botticelli laughed and shook his head. The locket, which was suspended on his paw, swung back and forth, back and forth. You, my friend, are a rat. Exactly. Yes. Evil. Prisoners. Rats. Suffering. It all goes together so neatly and sweetly. Oh, it's a lovely world. A lovely, dark world.